Welcome back to the Accessible Art History YouTube channel. This week, I have another video to add to my 5 must-see masterpieces series. However, this site isn't technically a museum. It's the US Capitol building. My dear friend Anna gave me the great idea to do a video on this subject in honor of Joe Biden's inauguration as the 46th President of the United States. She saw some art in the building and asked me to talk about it. I thought it would be fun to cover some of the magnificent pieces, as well as discuss some of the amazing Americans the works depict. So, without further ado, let's dive into 5 must-see masterpieces at the US Capitol building. In 1817, John Trumbull decided to enlarge one of his previous works showing the presentation of the Declaration of Independence to the Second Continental Congress. This momentous event took place on June 28, 1776, 1 week before the historic signing on July 4th. Trumbull wanted to create a painting that could serve as a historical record for the birth of the American nation. The artist did his best to paint the men from either life or from portraits that he knew had been painted during the figures' lifetimes. Anyone that didn't fit these requirements was simply left out. In the end, Trumbull included 42 of the 56 signers and 5 additional patriots. Viewers will recognize Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, and John Adams among the other members of Congress. However, Trumbull did take some liberties with the room itself. Thomas Jefferson provided rough details, but the artist added nicer furniture, heavier drapings on the windows, and some British military flags in the background. It's believed he wasn't as concerned with the setting as he was with the figures because they were the main force behind the new nation. Congress purchased this work in 1826, and it hangs in the rotunda today. George Washington is one of the most beloved figures in American history. Not only did he lead revolutionary forces to victory against Great Britain, but he also served as the nation's first president. In 1865, this work, called The Apotheosis of George Washington, was commissioned to honor him. It was only 11 months after the Civil War had ended and the nation looked to the past to heal. The painting, which is on the ceiling of the Capitol Rotunda, was painted by Italian artist Costantino Brumidi. Because this work is 180 feet up in the air, Brumidi had to get creative. His work covers an astounding 4,664 square feet of space. Each figure is about 15 feet tall, so they can be clearly seen from the ground. At the center is George Washington. He is flanked by figures of liberty and victory. That group is surrounded by 13 young women. They represent the 13 original colonies. They are raising George Washington to the rank of a god and a hero. That's what the word apotheosis means. On the perimeter of the dome, there are various Roman gods and historical figures. For example, science is represented by the goddess Minerva. She is teaching great inventors such as Benjamin Franklin, Samuel Morse, and Robert Fulton. At the time of this painting's creation, the country was in shambles, so Brumidi decided to look to the great civilizations of the past to help inspire healing. On April 4, 1968, civil rights activist Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. It was a terrible blow to not only the civil rights movement, but to America. Born in 1929, King was a gifted orator. He used his skills to give a voice to those who could not speak for themselves. His most famous speech, in which he uttered the lines, "I have a dream," was given in 1963 in front of a crowd of over 250,000 people. King's influence helped to get the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act passed. He received a Nobel Peace Prize for his work. In the 1980s, Congress commissioned a portrait bust for display in the Capitol so that he could sit among other leaders. An artist named John Wilson won the honor in this contest in 1985. A year later, Wilson unveiled his bronze statue to the world on what would have been King's 57th birthday. Mrs. King and her children were in attendance. This work shows King's intelligence by giving him a stoic and thoughtful expression. It looks as if he is about to give a great speech. The lines of his shoulders run down his suit and into the pedestal. This, quote, tricks the eye and allows the piece to seem larger than it actually is. This striking monument was sculpted in 1920 by artist Adelaide Johnson. It features 3 incredible women rising up from the rock. Each of them was instrumental in helping women gain the right to vote. Without their hard work, it would have taken much longer than it already had. They're sculpted in marble, like the heroes of the ancient world. It's well-deserved. On the left is Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was a president of the National Women's Suffrage Association and also helped to write the Women's Bill of Rights. In the center is Susan B. Anthony, a close friend of Stanton. Anthony was an abolitionist, suffragette, and later president of the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Finally, the right-hand sculpture is Lucretia Mott. She was a Quaker reformer and also a preacher who worked for equality for women, especially in regards to job market and education. This work was unveiled in 1921 to a crowd containing representatives from over 70 women's rights organizations. The date of February 15th was specially chosen because it would have been Anthony's 101st birthday. A special congressional resolution moved the statue to its present location in the rotunda in May 1997. Technically, this work is actually 23 separate pieces put together in a large installation. It's called The Basics and is located in the House Chamber. 7 artists work on these relief carvings, and they were installed in 1950. Each carving shows a profile portrait of an important figure in history. Scholars from the University of Pennsylvania, the Columbia Historical Society, and the Library of Congress worked together to choose these figures based on their contributions to laws that helped to shape American law. A single figure does look forward, out at the viewer. It is Moses, the Old Testament prophet. The other portraits are arranged so that they face him. They include kings like Edward I of England, popes like Gregory IX, and even ancient figures like Hammurabi. A full list can be found on the website linked in the sources below. These are only 5 fantastic works found in the U.S. Capitol building. Make sure to check out the Accessible Art History Instagram page for a bonus 6th work. Each of these pieces are important because they represent important figures and moments in our country's history, and they deserve the honored place in the center of the nation.